Hey everyone, I'm Olivia Sanders, and today I want to share how I handled some seriously toxic people in my life. I'm 25, an aspiring artist, and I never imagined I'd be telling you about the time my own grandmother tried to scald me with boiling water. But here we are. It all started 2 years ago when my mom, Sarah, passed away. She was my best friend, my biggest supporter, and losing her felt like someone ripped a part of my soul out. The only thing that kept me going was the beautiful collection of jewelry she left behind. Each piece told a story. After her death, I stayed in our family home with my grandmother, Martha. At first, it was comforting, like having a piece of mom still around. But things started to get strange when Frank entered the picture. "Olivia, dear, have you met Frank? He's such a gentleman," Grandma asked me one day. I forced a smile. "Nice to meet you." Frank, this charming 60-year-old widower, began visiting more frequently. I tried to be happy for Grandma, but something didn't feel right. My best friend, Zoe, noticed it too. One day over coffee, she said, "Liv, don't you think it's time you got your own place? Your grandma's acting like a teenager with this Frank guy." I sighed. "I know, but I can't just leave her. Plus, all of Mom's stuff is still there." Zoe gave me a knowing look. "Your mom would want you to live your life, not babysit your grandma." She had a point, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to stay. Work became my escape. I was doing graphic design at a small firm, trying to save up for art supplies. That's where I met Ethan. "Hey Olivia, check out this design I'm working on," Ethan called me over one day. As I leaned in, catching a hint of his cologne, I smiled. "Wow, that's amazing. I wish I could create like that." He grinned. "You're kidding, right? Your work is incredible. You should really consider doing your own art full-time." I blushed, feeling butterflies in my stomach. Ethan understood me. He saw the artist in me struggling to break free. But every time I felt like I was moving forward, something at home would pull me back. Like the night I met Frank's son, Derek, at a family dinner. "So Olivia?" Derek asked, his eyes flicking between me and his dad. "How long have Frank and your grandma known each other?" I shrugged. "A few months, I guess." "Why?" Derek's expression tightened. "No reason. Just curious." Something about his tone unsettled me. But before I could ask more, Grandma Martha burst into the room. "Everyone, I have wonderful news," she exclaimed, her face glowing with excitement. "Frank and I are getting married." The room went silent. It felt like a punch to the gut. "Married, Grandma? Isn't this a bit sudden?" I asked, trying to hide my shock. She waved off my concern. "Oh, pish-posh, when you know, you know." As everyone congratulated them, a heavy sense of dread settled over me. Something wasn't right, and I had no idea how bad it was about to get. This was just the beginning of a nightmare. In the weeks after Grandma's engagement announcement, everything spiraled out of control. One afternoon, I overheard her on the phone, her voice tense and anxious. "I'll get the money, I promise. Just give me a little more time." When I confronted her about it, she snapped. "It's none of your business, Olivia. Can't an old woman have some privacy?" I backed off, but my suspicions only grew. Things got even stranger when I noticed Mom's antique locket was missing from its usual place on my dresser. "Grandma, have you seen Mom's locket?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She avoided my gaze. "Oh, that old thing. I probably moved it while cleaning. Don't worry about it." But I was worrying a lot. I called Zoe in a panic. "Zoe, I think Grandma's up to something shady. Mom's jewelry is disappearing, and she's being all secretive about money." "That doesn't sound good, Liv. Want me to do some digging?" Zoe asked. I hesitated. "Would you? I feel like I'm going crazy here." While Zoe played detective, I confided in Ethan during our lunch breaks. "I just don't know what to think anymore," I said, overwhelmed. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Hey, we'll figure this out. You're not alone in this." His touch sent a warm feeling through me, a brief respite from the chaos at home. But that peace didn't last. A few days later, Zoe called with disturbing news. "Liv, you might want to sit down for this. I found out your grandma's drowning in debt. And that Frank guy, he has a history of cozying up to wealthy widows and then disappearing with their money." My stomach dropped. "Oh God, Zoe, what do I do?" "We need solid proof. Keep your eyes open and document everything," she advised. For the next week, I was on high alert, watching Grandma's every move. The final straw came when I saw her sneaking out early one morning. a familiar jewelry box tucked under her arm. I followed her to a rundown pawn shop and watched in horror as she handed over piece after piece of Mom's jewelry. Unable to contain myself, I burst into the shop. "Grandma, what are you doing?" She whirled around, her face a mix of guilt and anger. "Olivia, you followed me? How could you?" "That's Mom's jewelry. It's all I have left of her," I shouted. The pawn shop owner awkwardly excused himself, leaving us alone in the cramped, cluttered space. Grandma's expression hardened. "You don't understand," she snapped. "Frank and I need the money for our new life together. Your mother would have wanted me to be happy. By selling her memories, by lying to me." I could barely speak, shaking with anger and disbelief. "You ungrateful child," she spat. "After everything I've done for you." I stepped closer. "Everything you've done? You mean stealing from me, lying to me, and planning to run off with some con artist?" Grandma's face contorted in fury. Before I could react, she grabbed a kettle of boiling water from a hot plate behind the counter and flung its contents at me. Searing pain exploded across my arm and shoulder, and I screamed, stumbling backward into a display case. The sound of shattering glass mixed with my cries of pain. Through the haze, I saw Grandma's face, no concern, no regret, just cold, hard anger. As I crumpled to the floor, cradling my burned arm, one thought became clear. The grandmother I knew and loved was gone. In her place was a stranger, someone who had just shattered the last thread of trust between us. The pawn shop owner rushed back in, shouting about calling an ambulance, but all I could focus on was Grandma, frantically gathering up the jewelry with trembling hands. In that moment, as the pain threatened to overwhelm me, I made a silent vow. This betrayal wouldn't break me. It would fuel me to reclaim my life and my mother's legacy, no matter the cost. The next few weeks were a blur of hospital visits, police reports, and tears. The burns on my arm and shoulder were healing, but the emotional scars ran deep. Zoe was my rock. "You're staying with me," she insisted, helping me pack up my things from Grandma's house. No arguments. I didn't have the energy to argue. As we loaded the last box into Zoe's car, Grandma Martha appeared at the doorway. "Olivia, please, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I couldn't even look at her. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice." A few days later, I got a surprising call from Derek, Frank's son. "Olivia, it's Derek. I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. There's something you need to know about my dad." We met at a coffee shop and Derek spilled everything. How Frank had a history of charming wealthy widows, draining their accounts and vanishing. "It's a pattern," Derek admitted, his eyes filled with shame. "I've tried to stop him before, but he always slips away. Maybe this time, with your help, we can finally put an end to it." I was hesitant. I'm not sure I can handle any more drama. But Zoe, ever the fighter, wouldn't let it go. "We can't let them get away with this, Liv. We need a plan." Over the next week, we hatched a scheme. Derek would play along with Frank's wedding plans, pretending to support him. Meanwhile, we'd work with the pawn shop owner to set up a sting operation. "I feel bad for ratting out your grandma," the pawn shop owner admitted when we approached him. "But what she did to you, that ain't right," the pawn shop owner said as we finalized the plan. Ethan, meanwhile, was my rock. He came over after work, bringing food and offering a shoulder to cry on. But I found myself pulling away, the fear of being hurt again too overwhelming. One night, as we sat on Zoe's couch, Ethan reached for my hand. I flinched. "Liv, talk to me," he pleaded. "What's going on in that head of yours?" I couldn't meet his eyes. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I can't. Everyone I've trusted has betrayed me. My own grandmother tried to." My voice broke, unable to finish. Ethan's voice softened. "I'm not them, Olivia. I would never hurt you like that." "That's why I thought about Grandma too," I whispered. The hurt in his eyes was clear, but he didn't push. "I understand. Just know I'm here, okay? Whatever you need." The day of the sting operation arrived. We had set up hidden cameras in the pawn shop and wired Derek for sound. The plan was for him to bring Grandma Martha and Frank to the shop under the pretense of selling family heirlooms to fund the wedding. From my spot outside, I saw them enter, Grandma clutching her purse tightly, Frank's arm around her. Even from a distance, I could see the predatory glint in his eyes. As the door closed behind them, I took a deep breath. Whatever happened next would change everything. I just hoped we were ready for it. The day of reckoning came swiftly. I stood in the back of the crowded courthouse, my heart racing as the judge read out the verdict. Frank's smug smile disappeared as the word guilty echoed through the room. It was over. When I went back to Grandma's house to collect the last of my things, I saw her watching from the window. Our eyes met briefly before she quickly pulled the curtains closed. That was the last time I ever saw her. With a nightmare behind me, I threw myself into my art. All the pain, betrayal, and healing poured into my canvases. Ethan stood by me through it all. "These are incredible, Liv," he said one night, studying my latest piece. "You're turning your pain into something beautiful." I leaned into him, feeling safe for the first time in months. "I couldn't have done it without you." Zoe, being the unstoppable force she is, helped me set up my own studio. "This is just the beginning," she declared as we painted the walls. "You're going to be huge, Liv. I can feel it." She was right. My first small exhibition sold out in a week. Then came a feature in a local art magazine. Before I knew it, galleries in the city were calling. On the night of my exhibition opening, I stood in awe, looking around at the vibrant crowd, my art on the walls, and Ethan beaming proudly from across the room. "To new beginnings," I toasted. "And to the family we choose," Zoe added with a smile. The pain of betrayal had forged me into something stronger, something unbreakable. As I raised my glass, I silently thanked the hardships that had led me here. They hadn't broken me, they had set me free. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. If you were in my shoes, would you ever forgive Martha for what she did? Is there a line that, once crossed, makes reconciliation impossible, even with family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences and opinions matter, and they could help others who might be going through something similar. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything and helps us continue sharing these important stories. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.